Welcome to the Eide webinar on digital transformation in healthcare supply chain companies. My name is Tom Owens and I'm the Director of Netsuite Business Development at Eide. Today we're going to talk about digital transformation in healthcare supply chain companies and how Netsuite can help you increase efficiencies and drive more top and bottom line revenue. Here's what we'll be reviewing today. First, we'll introduce our team on the phone and give you introductions to Eide and who we are. Then we will demonstrate how modern technology can increase operational efficiency, resulting in higher throughput of orders and reduced expenses. In order to be informed and proactive, we understand that healthcare suppliers must have a handle on activities taking place in the supply chain at all times. Through proactive reporting and rule-based methodology, your organization can take control of your supply chain and ensure you are meeting customer demand. Finally, we will wrap up and talk about next steps. Let's get started. First, let's do introductions. Once again, I am Tom Owens, Director of Netsuite Business Development. I have worked for software companies that have focused on high growth and profitability. I spent the past 10 plus years on executive leadership teams, was previously a business owner, and am a current board member. My industry experiences range from Fortune 500 companies to early phase startups, including ERP experience with NetSuite and Adaptive. On the phone with me is Amy Knust, who will be walking us through the demonstration today. Amy is an experienced NetSuite implementer and solutions engineer. She is a CPA and is certified in multiple ERP applications. Amy has over 25 years experience consulting with manufacturing and distribution clients and currently manages our solution engineering team. Additionally, we have Danny Bushman from RF Smart with us today. Danny has been with RF Smart for 20 years. In his time with the company, he has held many roles from business analyst to sales and helped hundreds of customers on their journey to accurate inventory. RF Smart is a leader in mobile inventory management. Their technology solution allows you to track everything in your warehouse from inventory to employees and enables you to accurately receive, transfer, count, pick, and return inventory in real time. RF Smart is a privately owned, debt-free company that has been in business for more than 28 years. Of their 1,600 customers, over 1,000 run on NetSuite as their back office system, and they deliver many built for NetSuite solutions to make managing your warehouse and inventory a seamless process. From 2014 to 2019, they experienced record-breaking growth and proudly continue to invest highly in their product, having spent $4.5 million in R&D in 2018. Now more about Eide. At Eide, we like to think of ourselves as advisors first and technology providers second. We only succeed when our clients succeed, and that's why our driving force every day is to help you find the best way forward. We bring our knowledge, passion, and experience to transform the way we do business and deliver lasting results. Eide has been around for more than 100 years and is a top 25 CPA firm, but Eide is more than an accounting firm. We are an award-winning consulting, business, advisory, and professional services firm. We are driven to help clients take on the now and the next with inspired ideas, solutions, and results. Our teams have experience that span multiple industries, including using proven services approach that focuses on business processes and user adoption. Our practice also specializes in complementary technologies like Salesforce CRM, data analytics, integrations, and advisory services. Our service offerings are always focused on helping with today's unique challenges. Within the distribution industry, our firm offers a combination of solutions that are designed to support your organization's growth strategies. We specialize in supporting companies with warehouse optimization solutions to improve efficiency and support increased transactional volumes without adding resources. As we have worked with healthcare distributors experience exponential growth and the associated challenges related to expanding into new geographic markets, our state and local tax services, as well as our international tax team, have provided guidance and insight into best practices and compliance issues related to growth. Other areas relevant to distributors that our firm can assist with include evaluating R&D tax credits to minimize tax liabilities and improve cash flow, as well as designing cyber security plans that ensure your data remains secure. Finally, we have a highly experienced and diverse technology team that supports ERP, CRM, and data analytics solutions that allow you to obtain insights from your data that can ultimately provide you with a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Within our ERP practice, our NetSuite team provides services to clients across the United States. We have successfully implemented over 500 companies and boast an award-winning team. We have 55 consultants holding over 100 certifications with an average experience of 10 plus years. Our team has earned America's Solutions Partner Award 5 of the last 6 years. This is an award based as much on customer experience and success as it is a strong and growing NetSuite practice. Now I will hand the presentation over to Amy as she discusses some of the challenges facing healthcare suppliers and the medical distribution organizations.
Now we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the specific challenges that might impact distribution companies. The current economic and social climate has created enormous challenges for distribution companies. Organizations have to have visibility into supply chain opportunities and constraints in order to maximize the returns available in the marketplace. In addition, operational efficiency is critical to increasing the level of inventory turns and optimizing the largest asset on the balance sheet. Finally, the challenges related specifically to COVID-19 and its impact on the workforce has created the need for flexible, collaborative tools that provide access to data anywhere, anytime, and from any device. The processes and systems that worked well before COVID-19 can limit the ability to capitalize on opportunities and maximize revenue. As growth continues, these manual processes and ad hoc applications begin to hinder productivity. In order to be informed and proactive, companies must have an understanding of the activities taking place in their supply chain at all times. Through intelligent planning tools and predictive analytics, we can take control of our supply chain to ensure that we're meeting customer demand. In addition, by leveraging modern technology, we can increase our operational efficiency, resulting in higher throughput of orders and reduced expenses. Today, we plan to provide you with an overview of some of the tools available in NetSuite that can address these challenges and provide a foundation to help you adapt to changing conditions. Oracle NetSuite is the #1 cloud ERP system in the marketplace today. Its proven technology supports over 20,000 customers worldwide. It offers a multi-company, multilingual, multi-location, multi-bid, and multi-legislative solution that can grow with your organization as you evolve to meet changing customer demands. NetSuite's built on 5 primary pillars. 1, flexibility to adapt to changing conditions with dimensional reporting structure and a feature enablement model that allows you to take advantage of additional functionality with minimal investment. Analytics that create actionable intelligence and tools that provide insight into your data. Synergy for teams that need to connect using multiple tools from any location or device. Scalability that supports the growth of your organization by allowing you to add companies, increase volumes, expand overseas without requiring major changes to the architecture of your environment. And security that provides confidence that your data is secure, and you can also rely on the application to be available, auditable, and to adhere to regulatory requirements regardless of where it is geographically located. In addition to these pillars, NetSuite is built for distribution companies. With advanced functionality to support growing organizations, the path to optimization can be different for every company. However, as you take advantage of more components of the solution, you can improve productivity, profitability, and the customer experience. Some of the key functional areas that support wholesale distribution companies include inventory management and warehouse management, rebate tracking, supply chain execution, quality management, Salesforce automation and optimization, mobile and e-commerce solutions, and warehouse automation. All of these features working together create a frictionless customer experience, allowing you to have a 360-degree view of your customer and interact with them through multiple channels. Whether they prefer to place their orders online, use a marketplace, work with your sales team, or contact you through the call center, your internal team will always have visibility into their transactions. The online customer portal increases customer loyalty by providing them with the ability to view their orders, invoices, and other transactions online, while also allowing them to make payments and submit support requests. NetSuite allows you to interact with your customer across all these channels in a single platform, eliminating multiple systems and the challenges that can create for growing companies. In addition to allowing your customers to place orders through a variety of channels, a frictionless customer experience also involves the ability to deliver a quality product on time and at a competitive price. NetSuite offers a variety of tools to assist warehouse distribution companies with increasing throughput and efficiency in the warehouse. Danny, could you share your thoughts on the role of warehouse management system within a distribution environment?
Sure, thanks, Amy. Yes, having a warehouse management system can add money to the bottom line through efficiencies. For example, supply chain visibility. Without having the proper visibility, it can affect inventory levels and costs to those levels. For example, you can have too much inventory or not enough. Both can affect business profit negatively. Worker productivity. Labor cost organizations every day. With a proper WMS, it creates more efficiencies and takes away tasks like duplicate entry. Inventory accuracy. RSmart can help take away issues with missed picks. Manual process can cause errors. By scanning products, it takes that risk away. and shipping accuracy. Organizations lose money every year in missed ships. By having a WMS system like RF Smart, we take away that risk of potential cost and missed ships. So where do you see mobile? You'll see a layout here. This slide gives you a visual of the warehouse. There's lots of organizations that can take on many tasks that can cost. So RF Smart can fulfill all those needs by bringing down the cost. Inventory management, fulfillment processes, manufacturing capabilities, retail capabilities, shipping confirmations, and receiving capabilities for it. Back to you, Amy.
Thanks, Danny. So what we'd like to do now is take you through a demonstration of NetSuite functionality and how NetSuite essentially manages supply and demand within the application so that you can optimize your inventory levels. And Danny is going to close off the presentation by showing us a little bit about how we could automate our warehouse and take the manual process out of managing our inventory. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is log into my NetSuite application by choosing www.netsuite.com. It's going to bring me to a login screen. By entering my username, which is equivalent to my email address, and my password, I'm now accessing NetSuite via a web browser. And one of the benefits of having a the NetSuite application is it is fully browser agnostic and entirely web enabled. It is also HTML5 compliant, so you can access the application anywhere, anytime from any device. And it is going to resize the screen naturally to fit whatever device you are using. So this allows for flexibility within your workforce and allows them to be productive regardless of whether they're physically in the office or whether they are working remotely. In this demonstration, I will start out by giving you a brief introduction to the navigation, productivity tools, and reporting tools of NetSuite. We will then take you through some demand generation, where we're going to create some demand via a sales order, and then ultimately look at how we would project future demand within the application using demand planning tools and native algorithms within the application. Then we're going to look at how we would address the supply plan and optimize our inventory levels to meet that future demand. And then finally, we'll close up with some discussion about warehouse automation via RF Smart. So to get started here, what I have done is I've logged in as the purchasing manager. And what that provided to me is an experience with the application that is optimized for my specific role. So I am looking at data elements that are relevant to me as the supply chain or purchasing manager within the organization. One of the things I'd like to point out is something called key performance indicators. And these are metrics that I, as the purchasing manager, might want to monitor so that I can understand how my team and my organization is performing relative to some specific goals. And you can see some of the metrics that I'm measuring in this example are open purchase orders, my fill rates, any spend that might have occurred that is not under purchase contract or price controlled, if there's any purchase order lines that are late. Okay, all of these elements can be graphed as well as displayed numerically on screen. So I'm going to hover over my little trend graph icon, and I can change this to look at over a different time frame. And it's going to essentially give me a graphical representation of my fill rates over time. So I can see how that particular metric is trending. And I could do that with, say, my inventory levels as well. Here I'm looking at a daily inventory calculation. I could analyze that weekly, and you can see that over time, right, my inventory levels are increasing. So I may want to drill into that information a little bit more, try to understand where those specific levels are increasing. The other thing I can do here with the key performance indicator gadget is I can drill down on any of the data elements, open those in a new tab, and it's going to take me to the underlying report that created that KPI. So in this case, a valuation summary. So if I wanted to understand what was causing that particular KPI to trend, I'd want to understand the details that make up that balance, and then view that over time. I can recast this report as of any historical date and see how my specific inventory levels or inventory values are trending on an item by item basis. To get back to my dashboard, I can simply select the dashboard option here from my menu, or since I opened a new tab, I can click back to my primary tab. Some other KPIs that are available to us is something called a scorecard. And in this environment, you can see that I am evaluating my inventory value, my inventory turns, and my days inventory on hand, and I'm comparing multiple fiscal periods. So now I'm starting to get some actionable intelligence out of the application, and I'm performing calculations on the underlying data rather than just reporting data elements that are stored in the application. So I can really report on any metric that's meaningful to your organization. And I've seen people track, how many picks are being performed by each warehouse worker on a daily basis, how many orders are being picked, packed, and shipped, what's the daily volumes of total dollars booked versus total dollars shipped. So any of those things that are meaningful to help you understand the activities that are occurring in your warehouse and within your supply chain can be presented on a dashboard. Now, these gadgets are very easy to maintain, so you have control over which data elements are being presented and how they're being compared. So I simply hover over the right-hand corner and I can choose the setup option, and then I can add additional standard key performance indicators to my gadget. Maybe I'm interested in seeing an order count, or perhaps my pipeline deals, for example, or how many new customers have I added on a daily basis. I'll just pick orders here, say done, and it's going to add that to my key performance indicators gadget. And I have the ability as well to change my date ranges. So if I wanted to compare this month till same day last year, as opposed to same day last month, I can simply choose my appropriate comparative ranges. And when I say save, it recasts that gadget for me, adds the additional key performance indicators so that I can evaluate that and further drill down on the data. I'm going to talk a little bit about a report snapshot. This is an example of a report that's being displayed in graphical format. All of these are, again, drillable down to the underlying data. So hovering over the right-hand side, I can simply say View Report, open that in a new tab, and now I'm looking at my items by quantity sold. So I can start to have visibility into where my top moving items are. And if I want to add to this report, it's very easy to personalize and customize. I'm going to hit the Customize button quickly, and I'm going to drill down on my sales view, and I'm going to find my estimated gross profit and add that to the report. I'm going to go ahead and summarize that information, and I'm going to change the name here so it says sales by item with gross profit. And I've just created a brand new report off of the standard report. I can say save, and now it's going to pull profitability information for me as well. It's important for us to know as distributors what are our top selling items, but also what are our most profitable product lines so that we can make sure we're marketing the right items to the right customers at the right times. I'm going to head back to my dashboard, talk about a couple more gadgets, and then we'll move on to talking about how to generate demand, how to create opportunities and move them through the cycle, as well as how to do some forecasting and demand planning. One other tool that I like to utilize as a NetSuite user is called the Reminders gadget. And this is showing me transactions or key performance indicators that I need to take action on because they represent some type of an exception or a potential problem within my supply chain. So you'll notice we've got a couple of options here. We've got a reminder that says we have some items that we need to order. So the system is recommending order quantities based upon algorithms and rules that we're going to demonstrate a little later. And it's also giving me some planning alerts that say, hey, I think you have a problem within your supply chain and you're going to need to address that. as well as perhaps maybe I have some purchase orders that need my approval. Okay, so I can simply right click again and open these in a new tab. We're going to spend a little time on this order item screen later today, but it's bringing me to a workbench that allows me to execute that task, right, and take care of that action item from my dashboard. My planning alerts are letting me know if I have any items that perhaps have an issue that needs to be addressed. In this case, the quantity on hand is above my safety stock, so I've got too much quantity on hand. Maybe I want to look at any outstanding purchase orders and make sure that I'm not bringing additional inventory in. And then in this case, I've got some purchase orders to approve. And anytime that you see, again, this edit or view option, you can right click these and drill down to the underlying transaction. Okay, so this is going to launch the purchase order form for me. And if I am the next approver in the approval cycle, it would give me the ability to approve it. And you'll always be able to see the status of your transactions in the upper right-hand corner. All right. The other thing I want to point out is any of these reports can always be exported to Excel. So there's going to be a tool in the bottom right-hand corner here. If you do want to get your data out to Excel and work with it there, you're going to have the ability to do it. And it does come out in a really easy to use format, where typically all you have to do is really widen some of your columns. Also, anything that is designed as a formula will come out as a formula. So you're not dealing with just hard-coded numbers. Okay, so it's very easy to do that. In addition, any report can be scheduled. And when I schedule it, I'm essentially saying I want to email it to a set of recipients, and I want to do it on a schedule. Perhaps make it a weekly event. Say I want to do it on Fridays, and I want to start at 9:25, and I want that to stop on November 30th, let's just say. Or I can select no end date, and it will perpetually generate this report and send it out to the list of recipients via email. All right, I'd like to talk just briefly about customizing a dashboard. It's very easy to add and remove gadgets from your dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these two and show you how easy it is to add them back. So I'm just going to hit the personalize button, and you can enable any of your users to have the ability to do this. And so I'm just going to grab the calendar gadget, drag it back onto my dashboard, and I'm going to change that to be a monthly view because I prefer to be able to see all of my days. And then I'm going to drag a report snapshot down here as well, which gives me the opportunity to select any report within the application. So I'm going to say setup, and I'm going to choose items by purchases. So I can have some visibility into the items that I am purchasing and which ones what my top 5 items are that are being purchased at any given point in time. And again, complete capabilities to drill down to the report. So there's a number of types of gadgets that are available to you to be placed on your dashboard, and it's very easy to personalize to meet your specific needs. Now I'm going to log in as the warehouse operations user, just to illustrate that a different user in a different role may have a different experience with the application. Different data elements might be relevant to this user, and they may have a different set of key performance indicators that are meaningful for them. They may be interested in looking at their warehouse operations in terms of a scorecard. Just some of those metrics I talked about earlier. What are my number of fulfillments, my number of packages? How are those trending today, this week, this month, last month, and through the quarter? Okay. It's very easy to change a scorecard. I simply say setup, and then I can choose a different scorecard to review. And you can create your own scorecards with your own set of metrics. So the system is incredibly flexible and is going to allow you to drill into your data to see any information that's relevant to you. Now that we've illustrated some of the business intelligence reporting tools within the solution, we're going to spend a little time reviewing the process of engaging with existing customers and potential new customers using some of the web native functionality of the application. To do that, I'm going to log in as the administrator. One way that NetSuite leverages its web native platform to support customer engagement is by either completely replacing your B2B or B2C website for order entry and product information, or by extending your current website with landing pages that capture lead and customer information. So in this presentation, we're going to be focused on that feature and show you how we can take a lead, convert it to a customer, create a quote, accept an order, and essentially create some demand for our system, leveraging NetSuite functionality. Now to do that, I'm going to launch something called an online customer form. An online customer form can be a landing page from any marketing campaign that you may generate. Essentially, with these forms, NetSuite creates a publishable URL that I can then attach or link to from my website. So imagine that this is branded for your organization with your logo, your color schemes, and essentially is an extension of your website. And we've driven our customers or our leads to this through some type of a marketing campaign, or it's a simple contact us form on our website. The beauty of this is because this is a NetSuite form, it is actually tagged with NetSuite fields inside of the HTML. And so anything that's data entered into this automatically becomes a lead in NetSuite. Okay, it is called an online lead form. So I'm just going to put a customer in here. Just invent a little email address. Let's say he's a purchasing manager. And he's with a company called Frimeric out of Denver, Colorado. No, not Ohio. Colorado. And we'll say 0247 is the zip code, and we can put some comments in here. Regarding your products. Just keep it pretty generic at this point. And when I submit this form, what the system is doing is inserting it into a NetSuite lead record, and it is routing it through my territory assignments based upon the rules that I have identified. In my case, I've based it on state and zip code to the appropriate sales rep to follow up with that particular opportunity. I've also asked it to redirect to another web page, which could be your personal homepage for your company. It's going to direct here to Eide Bailey's home website. And what happens then is a new lead has been created in NetSuite automatically. So I don't have to go in as a user and rekey any information. So what I'm going to do is take on the persona of a sales rep at this point, and the sales rep is Bert Brockus, and he covers that territory. And he has a different experience with the application. He's looking at calls to complete, opportunities to close, tasks to complete. And he's got on his key performance indicator gadget something that says My New Leads. And as he drills down on that, he can see that the new lead called Frimeric has just been entered into the system. I'm going to go ahead and right-click both of these actually in a new tab. And we'll take a look. Here's my new lead. The lead came in as a status of qualified. It brought in Jeff's contact information and essentially associated it with a company name of Frimeric Inc. Let's go back to my dashboard. I'm going to work with this lead today. So what we're going to do here is take a look at this particular lead and take it through the order process. So if I wanted to, I have the ability to create events, tasks, or activities to remind myself to follow up with opportunities. So there is a full Salesforce automation system built into NetSuite. So I'm going to say follow up with Lloyd on opportunity. I'm going to say he's interested in our products. This case, it's not started. If I wanted to, I could reserve a time on my calendar for this, and I could set reminders, or I could assign it to a different user. Once I create that task, it becomes a part of the communications tab and a task that is assigned to me. Right? I think this is the one that I've created here. And then if I get on the phone with the prospect and they are interested perhaps in a quote, directly from the customer record, I can launch a quote. And it's going to pass the context of the customer information into the quote, and it also assigns a probability to it for purposes of pipeline management and forecasting. I create my own sales process, and depending upon the stage of the sales cycle, am I at an opportunity, a quote, a sales order, it's going to assign a default probability and give me the opportunity to override that. I'm going to go ahead and add an item. I'm going to go ahead and select a location, actually. I'm going to select San Francisco, and I'm going to choose an item. I put a quantity on this quote. And it's bringing in a list price that is applicable to that particular customer, but I have the ability to change that price if I want to. And it's going to automatically reassign the rate and extend the appropriate amount. And you'll also notice that we have the ability to look at an expected ship date with item availability checking. And this is really looking at my time-phased demand and supply records and giving me visibility into whether or not an item is going to be available. So right now I have a quantity on hand of 48, but only a quantity available of 8. So I've got some committed, but you can also see that I have some future supply, and there's a purchase order out there with an expected receipt date of 9/24 for a quantity of 35. Okay. So it's recommending that the earliest available date for this would be 9/24 because I do have sufficient quantities to commit at this point. So I could promise my customer that I can successfully deliver in that time frame. All right, now NetSuite also has the ability to calculate your shipping costs for you at the point of quote or order entry. So by clicking on my calculate button, it's going to come back and tell me what my estimated shipping cost is. And this is using small parcel carriers like FedEx, UPS, or USPS, and your rate schedules that you have assigned with that particular carrier. Now, in my case, it came back with a shipping cost of 0, which is odd because I am shipping a quantity of items. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the promotions tab. And what's happened here is it's automatically applied a shipping promotion for me. So if the order is over $250, I've said shipping is free during this time frame. So it applied that automatically. If I don't want to utilize it, I can simply take it off, remove that, and it's going to recalculate the shipping for me at $12.51, okay? In addition to that, I can define what specific carrier shipping method I want to use, or I can have it default from the customer. Now, when I say save, if I have my customer or lead set up for automated emailing, it will send an email automatically with an acknowledgement of their quote. I can also optionally set up a follow-up conversation with the customer so that I can see if they'd like to take advantage of the offer I've provided for them. Just a moment to save. Okay, it will give me confirmation the transaction saved successfully. Slipping over to the communication tab, you can see that an email did go out automatically to my client, and I always have the ability to review that and take a look at that quote. In this case, I sent it in inline HTML format. This is a very customizable form that can look and feel like you, but here's the email that was received by my customer. Now I could set a follow-up task for myself on this quote as well. to say follow up in 2 days, perhaps. Okay, again, reserve a time on my calendar and hit save. And now I have a reminder for myself that I need to check in on this, this particular quote or opportunity. And if the customer wants to move forward, the method of converting that to a sales order is simply to click the sales order button. And that's transforming the quote record into a sales order. It's going to increase the probability of sale to 100% because it's now become a customer as opposed to a prospect. And it gives me the opportunity to review and edit and perhaps add anything that I need to this quote. Maybe not only do they want to purchase this item, but they want to add another item to it. So now that you're familiar with the quote to order process in NetSuite, and we've illustrated how to create some demand-oriented transactions, I'd like to explore some of the supply chain management tools that are designed to help us plan for inventory levels that will then support future demand. So in addition to having existing orders, we can leverage something called demand planning within NetSuite. And that tool allows us to calculate a demand plan. And as we work with distributors in many different industries, one of the challenges that we frequently hear is that it's very difficult to predict future demand, and it's very time consuming to analyze historical actuals. And a lot of times there is a lot of manual intervention that needs to be done in this process. In the absence of a tool to essentially help us analyze those historical actuals and project future demands, it becomes an exercise of exporting things to Excel, manipulating an Excel worksheet, and then essentially using human judgment to make your best guess in terms of what might need to be planned for in the future. What NetSuite's demand planning tool allows us to do is essentially build those demand plans in an automated fashion. So I have the ability to choose a particular legal entity and a specific location, and then I can choose one of 4 projection methods. So 3 of these methods are historical actuals based, in that they will look at your historical usage or sales of an inventory item, and then they will apply some type of algorithm, either linear regression, moving average, or a seasonal algorithm to that historical usage to project future demand. And you get to choose your historical analysis duration as well as your future projection duration so that you can begin planning in sufficient duration to meet your anticipated lead times from your vendors. Okay, so when we go through this process, it's like building an MRP repository, right? It's looking at all of those demand items based upon the projection method we've defined. And the result of that is essentially a demand plan. Let's look at some demand planning reports. A organized demand plan. So I'm going to look at the demand plan by item as well as the forecast to actual. I think I got that clicked. Okay, here's my demand plan by item. So this is a total for this year from 1/1/2020 to 12/31/2020 of what the system thinks we're going to need to support future demand. What I can do if I really want to analyze this in more detail is I can use my column filter, and I can spread this by week or by month. Right? I'm going to spread it by month because I'm using a full year's duration. Normally, you'd just be looking at this information going forward. So I can kind of see now by item what the system thinks I'm going to need to support demand based upon historical usage and linear regression, moving average, or seasonal patterns applied to that historical actual. If I want to compare to see how accurate has that particular algorithm that I used to plan this item been, I can utilize the forecast to actual analysis. Again, I'm going to spread this by month, and now I'm looking at my forecast quantity compared to my actual quantity, and I'm looking at how realistic that forecast was relative to what I actually needed when the sales orders were processed through. Now, the second way that you can derive demand, some of our items we might not want to plan based upon historical actuals. The demand may be too volatile to make those kinds of determinations, or perhaps they're items that we only order when we have an order from our customer. We can derive our demand from a sales forecast as well. So these items could be, this forecast could have been determined a number of different ways, and each item could be calculated utilizing a different algorithm. And that essentially builds the demand plan for us. What I'd like to do now is to take you through the creation of a sales order and talk about some of the ways that we might leverage the demand plan tools inside of the creation of a sales transaction. So I'm going to go ahead and say enter sales orders. And I'm going to create one from scratch. You've already seen us convert one from a quote. This is going to be beginning with a sales order and drafting it from scratch. So I'm just going to say customer is Smith Supplies. And I'm going to put this in a pending approval state. So we can put approvals over any of our transaction types here. Perhaps from a sales rep perspective, anything that I put in that's over a certain dollar amount needs to go through approvals. These can be conditional based upon rules that you define. I'm just going to illustrate a very simple approval process by putting this through a manual approval. And if the customer has provided me with a PO number, I can place that in the purchase order number. And what I'm not going to do here is select a location. You saw me select a location on the quote. But what I'm going to do here is illustrate some of the functionality of Netsuite that helps us optimize our inventory across locations. So to do that, I'm going to put in a couple of quick items. Let's again use our WD item. And let's put in a quantity of 4 of those. And then let's add another item to this. And let's put a quantity of 10. Again, I'm leaving the location blank. I am not changing the rate. I'm leaving the customer at a dealer rate. And you'll notice I got something called my required supply by date. This is a useful tool and applies to allocation functionality that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But it allows me to control when this sales order gets allocated and inventory becomes reserved. You can also see I have an allocation strategy defined here that says predefined available, meaning I want to allocate all available quantities to the sales order in real time. And if I'm short quantities, allocate the available quantity and back order the remainder. I could have said allocate the complete quantity, and I don't want to ship until I can ship complete. In addition, if this is something that I only acquire or purchase when I have sold it, I can actually generate a purchase order from the sales order. And I can default my items to being drop ship or special order items. Drop ship is obviously ship direct from the supplier, where a special order means generate a purchase order for me because I'm going to buy it in, ship it to my warehouse, and then ship it to my customer. And I want to do that all automatically. If I select either of those options, I have the ability to control my purchase order rate. It's going to default to the approved vendor list and their associated contracted rates, but have the ability to override that should I so choose. And I'm not going to do either of those things for this example. A couple other tools that we have here is the ability to enable something called line item shipping. So should I want to ship to a different customer location for each individual line, I can do that. And I can utilize different carriers per line and different ship vias if I need to do that. So you don't have to create a separate order every time you need to ship to a different address. It will automatically, upon shipment, split into different transactions for purposes of carrier integration and shipment. Another nice feature of Netsuite is the Upsell Manager. And what this is going to do for me is it essentially has a correlation engine that looks at all of my other customers who have purchased the item that I'm looking at on my sales order, and it's recommending items to upsell based upon historical actuals from other customers. So there's a correlation percentage here that you can take a look at as well, where the system's saying, hey, everybody that's ordered this item also ordered a BAL 35120. Would you like to add that to the order? So it's a handy tool to help your sales team, if they are engaging with a customer and manually entering these transactions, to upsell those customers additional items. And then finally, when we're talking about a multi-location order, one of the tools at our disposal is the ability to auto-assign locations. So I'm going to go ahead and click auto-assign. And what it's going to do is go through my assignment rules. And I have created some rules here that say, I want to ship from the closest warehouse. Your rules could say, ship from the closest warehouse unless you can ship complete. And then I want to ship complete from the warehouse that has all quantities available. Or you could specify regions and stack rank your locations within those regions. Or you could specify that a particular item can't be shipped to from a certain location. Like, for example, maybe I can't ship to Canada from anywhere but my Toronto warehouse. So you have a lot of flexibility with defining rules that would define which warehouse you want to ship from and optimize your shipping function. Okay, minimize your inventory movement. So what I'm going to do now is save that sales order. And it is in pending approval state, so I'm going to have to take it through approval. And at that point, it's going to go through an allocation engine. So I'm going to hit the approve button. I'm actually the creator and the approver in this case because I'm the administrator. And I have my system set to auto allocate on save of an approved order. So it will perform a commitment of inventory. So I had 8 available, 4 were on the order, 4 became committed automatically. You can put allocation rules in place, and I find this pretty frequently when I'm working with distributors, where they are getting blanket orders from their customers, which require future shipments, or they're taking seasonal orders and they're very large pre-orders for items. And you don't necessarily want to commit those items immediately. What you can do is leverage that required supply by date, and you can manage your reservations using that date so that you are actually making inventory available to orders that need to ship earlier. But at the point that you reach your required supply by date, then those blanket orders or seasonal pre-orders will become allocable. Okay, so it's a very, very helpful tool. Now that we've created some demand, what I'd like to do is take you through a supply plan and talk a little bit about how NetSuite then manages supply. So within our demand planning tool, we've already generated a demand plan that looked at our historical actuals or looked at our sales orders on hand, generated that projected demand out into the future. I can then generate a supply plan, which is going to look at available quantities, purchase orders that are coming in, sales orders or other demands that are on those items, and it's going to time phase that for me. So I'm going to select a supply plan that I have already generated for you. Close a few of these windows down. And here is the item that I placed on that sales order in the location Chicago. So each of these supply plans is location specific. And you can leverage something called distribution network planning if you have some type of a master warehouse that's feeding other warehouses and you buy to the centralized warehouse and then transfer. Distribution network planning will automatically create those transfer orders for you to replenish the subordinate warehouses. But in this case, what you'll see is a recommendation has been created for a planned purchase order. The order's not yet been created, does not have an order number assigned to it, but it's recommending a quantity of 40. And if I want to understand that better, I can come to my gross requirements inquiry, which you can get a couple of different ways in the application. But this is going to show me the time-phased analysis by warehouse of my supply plan. And essentially, I have placed a safety stock level for this warehouse of 100. So my system is trying to keep me at a quantity of 100 for this item. And it's looking at all the demand and supply items within that warehouse for this item. So what it's done for me is it said, you're going to need to have a planned purchase order. And you're going to have to actually back that up to 9.6 to accommodate for your lead times of a quantity of 40 in order to keep with your beginning inventory of 58 and your current commitments of supply orders coming in to get to that quantity of 100. That is what needs to be done. So essentially it's recommended a planned purchase order for me. We're going to come back and see where that actually shows up for me to take action on in a moment. But I want to point out that if you have multiple warehouses, it's helpful to be able to analyze your demand and supply across all of your warehouses simultaneously. And the way to do that in NetSuite is with something called a supply chain snapshot. So I'm going to go to my inventory item that we've been working with here. And I'm going to drill down to my supply chain snapshot, which is really a simulation of demand and supply across all of my warehouses. You can find that with this little button at the top of the inventory screen. And this is going to give me a really similar view to the gross requirements analysis, but it crosses all warehouses and time phases my demand and supply items, giving me a cumulative quantity that I have on hand after each of those transactions. So what you'll see here is the first transaction are quantities on hand in inventory when I initially created the snapshot. So here's my as of quantities, and cumulatively I have 686 across all locations, because essentially it's just adding the supply quantity from each location to the cumulative inventory balance. And then I have some purchase orders coming in that are scheduled to be received on this item. And then as I continue to scroll down, I have sales orders as well that are going to consume that supply. Okay, so I can have kind of visibility at a single click with where my inventory status sits across all locations. Now, in addition to that, I might want the system to use some intelligence. So I'm going to go to my, to perhaps recommend or identify potential risks in my supply chain. So I'm going to go to something called my control tower. And this is another procurement related dashboard with similar key performance indicators and alerts that we discussed earlier, but it leverages machine learning to identify predicted risks for me and make recommendations on actions that I need to take to avoid problems in my supply chain. So in this case, I'm going to drill down on those predicted risks, and it's going to give me a list of purchase orders and the confidence interval, as well as the projected days late it thinks that that particular purchase order will be. So I can use this as action items for me to visit with my vendors. In this case, it's recommending that I reschedule the purchase order and pull it into 4 days earlier. If my vendor's not capable of doing that, maybe I can find another vendor that I can purchase this from so that I can meet my supply chain requirements and not disappoint my customers. Okay. So all of these features are available to you out of the box with NetSuite. The final thing I'd like to do here is show you kind of the results of that demand and supply planning transaction. And that is the order item screen that we briefly looked at earlier. What this is doing is making recommendations for me from that demand and supply planning process to tell me what actions I need to take. I'm just backing up my date and time here. And you'll notice that, again, here's the item that we've been working with. It's recommending the vendor to purchase it from. It's recommending the quantity of 40 from my gross requirements analysis to keep my safety stock at the level that I desire it to be. But because this is a workbench, I have the ability to make changes, right? Maybe if I increase my order a little bit, I can get a slightly better deal. Right, from my vendor. And I can filter this by vendor. I can make it so I'm essentially building a container load or a truck and, you know, buying from specific vendors, filter this by item, etc. But all I have to do to create these purchase orders then is either mark all or just mark the specific purchase orders that I want to create and hit the submit button. And that's going to generate a purchase order for me. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Danny to spend a little bit of time talking about warehouse automation and how we might automate the process of receiving and shipping items within our warehouse.
All right, welcome again. My name is Danny Bushman. So you've seen some of the capabilities of NetSuite. I do have two windows here. Makes it easy to show you what happens when we do real-time transactions for these efficiencies that we talked about for the inventory control. So on the left-hand side is NetSuite's form. It has a purchase order ready to go. And on the right window here, you'll see a menu. This is the easy menu that the mobile user will be able to utilize in order to do those transactions, obviously on the mobile handheld here, but makes it very efficient to do these out there in the warehouse. So we'll start with purchase order receiving as our first transaction. Very easy to configure this menu. I just have a subset of all the functions that are available, but you can even cater this menu based on the user role. So if they only want to see 5 or 6 of these functions to get through their daily task, that's all they'll need to see, versus a different user may have several other functions that they need on their menu. They just simply log in and they'll be presented with the menu, how you configured it. So purchase order receiving will be the main one. I'll go ahead and tap it. These are just touch screens, kind of like your cell phone. And we make it easy so that the user is really just walked through a very easy flow to execute what they're trying to do for their tasks. So what's the purchase order that we're receiving against? And you can certainly scan it, these input boxes. You could scan a barcode. You could key it in. So if I just touch it, you'll get your keyboard. Or if you even want, there's a load list. So the user can simply tap that load list, and then they'll be able to choose that purchase order from the line there. So 3 easy ways. We do recommend barcoding, but we don't force the issue, but definitely barcoding will make your lives very efficient there. I'll scan it, and it's reading it. Excuse me. It's reading the purchase order and showing you the open lines. So now it's ready to be received. On the right-hand side, you see the window. It now has an item prompt there. So scanning in the item, keying in the item, or they can even select the individual lines from there to start receiving the products. And if the supplier has shipped the goods, you may have a barcode on that label. They can just scan that if the user wants to. If there's not a barcode, we can produce one. I'll show you that here in a second. So I'll select the first one or scan, and you can receive these in any order. Just because they're shown this way doesn't mean you have to receive them. You can receive any item in any order. I'll scan the first one here. It will then prompt, it will give you vital information right here on this screen, so it makes the user's job easy. They can visually see the description of the product, the item image of it, so it's just a visual verification. Yep, that's the right product to the right description to the right item number. And then how much is remaining, you'll see it here. The user simply enters the last question. I'll go ahead and do receiving of my 3, and then that's it. That's all it's needed. It makes it very user-friendly to visually display exactly the status of each line. So as they get through this item list, anything that they've fully received turns green. So you can partially receive something, that will turn yellow. If you receive something, you can even over-receive something. So if you see something full or over, it'll turn green, and then it stays red until you've received it, either partially or fully. The user really just loops through, whether there's 3 items in my case or 30. It's the same flow. Scanning in the item, keying in the item with the keyboard there, or even selecting it from the list there. 3 easy ways to do it. We do support various characteristics of an item. So the first one I did was a regular item. We support lot-enabled item. We support serial-enabled item. We also support license plating. So we do have the concept, if you want to put these items onto a pallet, a skid, and apply a license plate number to that, and then you can move the products around just by scanning in that license plate number. We have that feature available. But this one is a lot-enabled item. Therefore, we're going to prompt the user to supply one so that we can register correctly on the inbound side. I'll go ahead and key in one or scan in one. And if you want to attach an expiration date to that, you can certainly see that we can accommodate that as well. So the expiration date, and that can be used in subsequent transactions, such as picking. If you want to pick in FIFO, first expiry order, we can look at the lot expiration and then tell you where to go find the lot number that's going to expire first for it. So I'll attach an expiration date, and then there's that quantity. We do give you the ability to print labels. So if I tap this print labels button, you simply just choose the network printer, whether wired or wireless, and you can default one by user. Out will come a label, has the barcode of the lot number, the item number. If it's a serial enabled item, we can print the serial number of each of the serial numbers on their own barcode. So it makes it very efficient that they just print it, put it onto the product, and now you'll be able to scan it in subsequent transactions for it. I'll go ahead and do a quantity of 2 here, just to show you that yellow is partially received there, so just those 3 colors, and that's throughout the system. And the last one I'll talk about is a serialized item. Like I said, we can do lot enabled, serial enabled, and even license plating. So this is a serial. Here we recognize it, it's set up with that, and now we're going to prompt the user to record the serial number so that they can be associated properly. I'll go ahead and give it a couple serial numbers. There's 1 of them there, there's 2, there's 3. So they're just scanning the serial numbers off of the product. That's all it's needed. When I submit this, everything will be updated in the system, real time. The transaction will process. Any user that wants to see exactly what happened has that ability. So on the left window, the purchase order will all be updated with the respective quantities, who did it, when they did it, what was recorded. Obviously, the inventory itself, all the 3 individual items you saw will have their proper inventory as well. Once that process is done, there's several things that will come next. One of probably the main ones is the put away process. So I'll tap into that. You'll be able to see if I go ahead and scan one of these items here, because I already have a barcode, as you saw, that we can produce it on the receiving portion. Really just signifies how I can put this away into a preferred bin or an overstock bin or a picking bin. So we just give you some guidance down here where that item currently resides, what's the quantity in each of those particular bins, and so it gives some guidance to the user where they can put this away. Simply enter the quantity, choose which bins that they want to put it away to, and then it will actually transfer to there, waiting for you to have it ready for a sales order, or if you even do work orders, it may be a component that you're waiting for a work order as well. Other ways that you can move products around, was transferring it. So if I want to move it from one bin to another, we certainly support that. If you want to move it between locations, so maybe you have a warehouse in a location, and then in front of that is a retail store, which is, you consider that a separate location, totally fine. We can then transfer that product from the warehouse right up to the retail store. So that's a good use for the inventory transfer for it. I'll move on to the picking, because that's a very valuable feature. A lot of customers will take advantage of. We actually have 4 levels of sales order picking. The simple one starts with, I know the sales order, it's ready to be picked. So on the left-hand side, there's a window that represents a sales order, and you saw how Amy was able to create one. Well, she created it, it's ready to be picked, and now all the user needs to do is enter that sales order number, scanning it, keying it in, or they can even go paperless and hit this show list, and you'll be able to see all the open orders that are ready to go, and you can sort it by ship date, ascending or descending. You can sort it by customer. You can even sort it by sales order number. And once the user scans it or finds the right one, we're going to simply walk them down in alphanumeric bin order to pick all the items. So it makes it very easy for the user to path through the warehouse picking these items. It's going to suggest go to this bin first and pick this item, and then on to the next alphanumeric bin for this item, and then it will just continue down. Whether you have 2 items like I have or 50 items, it doesn't matter. The path through the warehouse is going to make it easy. And this suggested bin is based on one of those rules. Do I always want to pick FIFO, first in, first out, or first expiry based on those lots? Or do I always want to go to my pick face bin, preferred bin? We can suggest which bin, or we can look at which bin that you set the rule for and then order it. User just simply scans the first one, confirms which lot number, and then confirms which bin that they're going to pick it out of. And this customer ordered 2 of these. And that's it. the looping again, you see, turns green when I fully pick that one. If I haven't picked it, it stays red, and then that yellow one. But now it makes it easy for the user, really no thinking. They're just very efficient through the warehouse. It's just the next one in the queue is going to be in the alphanumeric bin again. Scan that one, confirm the bin that I'm picking from. We do allow alternate bins, so if you do want to pick it not from the suggested, we don't force the issue. For whatever reason they want to choose it from a different bin, they can certainly find one that has quantity and select that one. And I'll go ahead and get a 2 in there. And that's it. Oh, I didn't pick fully, which is okay. You can partial pick. You can even overpick if you want the system to. It can be set up that way. I would then simply process this, and now you can move on to packing and shipping for it. And we support that as well. The next level of picking, we do allow users to queue up multiple work orders and pick at one time through the warehouse. So that's our multiple feature. You simply choose or queue up as many sales orders as you wish. I'll queue up one, I'll queue up another, and I can just continue queuing up. And then when I'm ready to go, I'll just hit this begin button, and you'll get one big pick list across all. So you're just walking through the warehouse once and confirming all of these items, whether it's spanning 2 sales orders in my case or 10. You may have queued up 10. Simply choose, again, the alphanumeric bin, go there, confirm the lot number, and the quantity that they're going to pick is 2. And then finally, we want to make sure that those items stay with the sales order. So we're going to confirm that that item that you just picked came from sales order 102803 in my case. Therefore, I'm going to confirm that against that so that I can keep it straight. And then it'll just flow down to each of those. We validate as we go. If the user scans something erroneous, I'll do that on purpose. You'll get beeps. We keep it straight. We defend against if there's something going wrong. We're going to show the user an error, invalid bin, invalid item. We want to make sure that we get the proper information so that the transaction is successful. I'll scan it and move it on. Okay, and then again, you're confirming as you go. So that is the second level. Let me cancel out of here. What they would do is pick it. It'll create the fulfillment where then you'll be picked. It will create the fulfillment picked it in a pick status, and then you're able to move it on to packing and shipping out to your customers. 2 more levels that we have. I'll just explain those. It's what we call our pick manager. So let me hit the back button here. The way that this works is, let's say that you don't you want to go a way that your dispatchers can handle creating waves of orders for it. So this is what this is. This is our entry level into that, where you'll be able to choose some parameters, what location, give me all sales orders, maybe by a certain shipping method for it. Maybe you want to find your 1-line sales orders or your 2-line sales orders. So there's some parameters that the dispatcher can provide. They'll simply go to 2 more screens. This next screen will show the user, the dispatcher, all of the orders that met those filters on the page prior. So here are, we'll just say 35 sales orders, or however many it found. They just simply need to mark them, click the next button, and they'll get 1 more screen where it will allow them to divvy up those orders. For instance, maybe you want to do a multi-order one, and I want each task to be 10 orders. And we call them tasks. Some people refer to them as waves. It's the same. So this method really means that I'm going to create, let's say I grab 35 sales orders. It now will create 4 tasks. 3 tasks of 10 sales orders and 1 task of 5. But the beauty of this is the dispatcher can just go through and choose it. And now on the handheld, on the right hand, what what the picker will see is what we call our task picking. They'll simply go in and they will see all of those tasks that were generated out of this run here. And so they'll be able to pick, they'll be able to go to each of these tasks and then go into each one and then pick it, just like I showed you for the sales order picking for it. Okay. And then there's one more level. Then there's one more level that we have is called our pick planner. That's the highest level. Instead of a dispatcher running through each of these and seeing the lines on there, it's an automated process. You create plans. You then save those plans. You schedule them once a day, 3 times a day, every 4 hours, whatever you wish. It'll automatically create the tasks, and it will pick, the user will pick just what I showed you there for it. We offer cycle counting as well, and I think that about covers the majority of it.
Amy and Danny, that was great. The demonstrations were very informative. Thank you for doing that. The level of detail is fantastic. So what's next? So from a next steps perspective, if you have an interest in learning more about how Eide Bailly, NetSuite, and R Smart can help your business, please feel free to send me an email at towens@eidebailly.com. Again, thank you for attending this presentation, and this concludes the webinar.